Hi lads and welcome back to the channel. Today's dogfight is going to be a wee bit different. We're taking a look at the F-100D Super Sabre and the MiG-19P Farmer, and we're going to be playing both sides of the fight today. We will start out in the F-100, then play round 2 in the MiG-19, and then we're going to have a look at the results of these dogfights in Tacview. So we have a test version of Tacview working for War Thunder, or ThunderTac, which is going to allow us to really have a detailed look at this fight. If you want to check out this software yourself, Tacview is free to download, and there will be instructions in the Discord about how you can use it for War Thunder and the ThunderTac add-on. But the basics of it are you're going to need all participants in a dogfight to have it installed and running during that match, so that you can then import each of the files from the player's perspective into Tacview, and that'll let you do some really cool things. Just keep in mind, if you do go ahead and download it, that this is only a development phase software right now. It is not bug free, and War Thunder isn't really set up for Tacview right now. The game doesn't provide any telemetry on things like air-to-air missiles for Tacview to actually track, and it won't work for some of the earliest tier planes without certain instrumentation. So the F-100 and the MiG-19 were the world's first Generation 2 fighter aircraft, bringing both the United States and the Soviet Union up into the supersonic speed range. While the MiG-19 actually flew first in 1952, it was the Super Sabre that was first into service when it equipped the US Air Force in September 1954. The MiG following suit 6 months later in March 1955. The F-100 weighs in at over 45% heavier than the MiG, and despite its single Pratt & Whitney J57 engine producing well over double the thrust of each of the MiG-19's RD-9s, the Farmer has a substantially higher thrust-to-weight ratio and also much greater energy retention. With that in mind, the MiG-19 should have the advantage in a dogfight in most any scenario, but the F-100 does have a higher initial pull. This gives the Hun the ability to beat the MiG-19 if you can force the one-circle fight, provided you know how to do that and control your speeds while maintaining enough energy to stay in the fight. So what our goal is today is to fly out both aircraft and try to visualize each participant's winning stratagem. This video is brought to you by supporters like you. Thanks for helping me make rent. Alright, so it's been a while since we were here. We're in the F-100, about to merge with a MiG-19. And there we go, going one circle it looks like. Yep, there we go, out of the merge. And just a little something about this fight, we are both going to be going one circle, at least initially, even though that would ordinarily be a mistake for the MiG-19. Obviously the MiG-19, one of the most dangerous rate fighters in the game. But we are intentionally going to be taking it one circle here, and kind of trying to demonstrate the one circle versus the two circle, so you can see we're continuously turning back into each other. And we should have a slight advantage here. We may have to take a little bit of the vertical here to avoid getting shot in the head on. But the F-100, slight advantage over the MiG-19 in angle of attack, and this should work for us here. We can get guns on. Oh, just managed to climb over our nose there. And we are losing a little bit of speed here. We're going to use a little bit of rudder there. Just couldn't quite get the lead there. But we are pretty firmly on his 6 here. And there he goes, reversing back. And that's 119. Out for the count. Hi lads, so welcome to Tacview. We're going to have a quick little look at that match we just played. You can see me in the F-100 here, and we can have a brief look at what Tacview can actually do for us in some of these controls. I may do a more in-depth guide of some of these menus, what they can do, and how to install this program, how to actually use it with War Thunder, if enough of you guys want that, so make sure to let me know in the comments below if I should do that. For now, we're going to real quickly go up here, go merge, and bring in the file that we've renamed here from Prade's perspective of this first round. And if we scroll out a little bit, we should find him. There we go. We've of course got to select him. We can turn him red so that we can see him nice and clearly against our blue F-100. And we go to select him up here. So now what we can do, as you can see, is we can get a real in-depth look about what was going on with our aircraft during this match and kind of see some of the statistics. We can see our airspeed there, Mach speed, our G loading and our turn rate. Now this is going to become very important later on. We will have a look at that. But in this first match, we were both specifically trying to demonstrate the one circle. So that is going to be, Praed's a little bit delayed on this turn. But what the one circle is out of the marge is we go a little bit wider out and let him kind of begin that turn. And you can see that as we turn from the marge, I go one way, Praed goes the other. We both turn in the same, both turning the same cardinal direction, so like north, south, east and west. We're both turning north or west or whatever it was, and we both form one circle. So a one circle fight, very easy to see. And this is going to basically focus on angle of attack and how tightly we can get our turn down. The tightest turn is going to win here. We're using a little bit of the vertical as well, which is going to help us tighten that turn down slightly, and also means that in his next pass, Praed's going to have to come up at us. So once again, like I was saying before, we are intentionally throwing the MiG-19 into the one circle here, even though it is not how that aircraft would ideally fight an F-100. A very, very dangerous rate fighter, RATE rate fighter, and that's this turn rate here. But as you can see, this particular engagement with a one circle, which we keep reversing back into a one circle, so we can draw that at any point, go around like this, and I'm going this way, and we're forming this singular circle. We're in a nose to nose, or a nose position fight, you may hear it called. And we continuously pull around, we're turning into each other, trying to limit the room our aircraft have between each other, and focus entirely on angle of attack and how tightly we can pull this turn. And that does give a slight advantage to the F-100. In initial pull, it will be slightly higher than the MiG-19. We're also relying on our rolling. We're in a bit of a flat scissors here, so every turn we reverse into each other, we have to actually roll back over. Just there, if I go back slightly, I've rolled over slightly early here, just to make sure that we begin that turn slightly earlier than Praed does. He rolls here, and he's still basically angled horizontally here, while I'm already beginning this turn. And you can see, you know, we're going to have a much higher, or much tighter turn here because of that. And so we're abusing what the F-100 can do over the MiG-19, which is its initial pull, its angle of attack, and its roll rate, which is going to be better than the MiG-19, especially at these speeds. Now, as we start losing speed, you can see here we're down below Mach 0.4, or at about 430 kilometers an hour. Praed's way up at 550, and we're going to be able to turn tighter. We're not going to out-roll him so much at these airspeeds, and we're not going to out-pull him so much at these airspeeds, but because he's going faster, as we turn in like this, he's going to end up pulling a wider turn or a shallower arc, and end up out in front, and we're going to have a chance to shoot him here. Ideally, that's how I would like to end the fight. It didn't quite happen as early as it could have. We just couldn't quite get the lead here. I think this is when I did actually take a shot and missed like a moron. As you can see, the guns, they do display in Tacview. They don't quite display properly because this is just a working demo of Tacview for War Thunder, or a very makeshift mock-up of Tacview for War Thunder, and it doesn't quite work exactly as it does in something like DCS, which actually supports the use of this. So you can see these gunshots, we only just actually missed him, so these rounds were going right over here, and they're completely not coming out of my aircraft facing the right direction at all. You can also see, if you see this line that's being drawn out from our aircraft being all wavy, being all wibbly, that's ping. That's what ping does in this game, and you won't see that in something like DCS. So we've gotten Praed to squirt out in front here, and now it's just a matter of staying on his 6 and eventually getting the lead in with these guns. And every time he tries to reverse that turn back again, which he's going to do here for one last time, he's just putting himself out in front of us, and we can stick on his 6 like this all day long. And there we go, that's where we got him right there. Alright, so now we've seen the one circle, now we're going to have a look at the two circle. We're in the MiG-19. As we come out of the marge, we both turn in opposite directions this time, so we're turning away from each other, creating a little bit of like an S shape between us, which should give us a lot more separation. And now once again, we are both intentionally taking the two circle fight here. and we should be trying to lead this F-100 down to the deck. Very much an advantage in the MiG-19's favour in the in the 2 circle. Not that it's bad in the 1 circle, but this should be quite a stomp. The F-100 really not sustaining a turn nearly as well, and the closer we get down to the deck, the more and more dangerous this becomes for him. And we're actually going to hang back a little bit, lag behind his turn here. Don't want to get too close. But of course the 2 circle, all about not so much how wide your turn is, but how quickly you can pull around the turn. And look at this, we just slotted straight in behind him. Quick burst. And there goes a Super Sabre. Splash 1. Okay, so round 2, we've done exactly the same thing, opened up the file with Tacview, brought in previous file, kind of merged it with this one, and we had a wee bit of trouble getting the icon to display properly. You can see it says none here rather than actually saying F-100, and that's because this is still a very, very kind of alpha version or test version of the software. It doesn't work all the time, and it does like to bug out. So just keep that in mind if you do go ahead and try it out, and what we've actually had to do is go and edit the object, and turn him into an F-100 Super Sabre. We could turn him into anything we want. I could actually make him a E2 Hawkeye if I wanted, and his icon switches there, as you can see. And we can zoom in and it will actually display as a Hawkeye, which is quite funny. And we can go ahead and turn that into anything we want. I could turn him into a B-52. I could put him as an F-117. We're going to go back to an F-100D. So now in this second fight, we were very much focusing in the MiG-19's favour, which would be in a 2 circle fight. So rather than a 1 circle, we're now in a 2 circle, and you can see the difference right off the bat. So instead of pulling a 1 circle where we'd both head in different directions, so I turn to my left, he turns to his right, we go in the same cardinal direction, but we both pull in towards each other, and that forms the 1 circle. Here, we formed the 2 circles, so I merged and I pulled to my right, I brake right, and Preed actually does the same, so he brakes to his right, and we pull away from each other. Now, if we continue that on, you can see what's going to happen is, as we zoom out here and have a look, and what's going to end up happening is we're going to almost go for another merge, and we form, if I get rid of these labels, you can very clearly see we formed 2 circles. So this, a lot of people get confused with these terms. They do not refer to, that's a very bad circle there, but they do not refer to the length of the fight. They do not refer to the distance or the number of turns involved, as a lot of people have been thinking. It's a 1 or a 2 circle, depending on how many turns you actually get to pull before the fight's over. That's not it at all. All this refers to is from the merge, basically whether you pull into each other or you pull away from each other like we have here. And so a 1 circle fight, very much based on angle of attack and how tightly you can actually pull down the turn. A 2 circle is based entirely on your turn rate, which is this here, and that's judged in degrees per second. So if you actually form a circle based on where your aircraft is facing and where you're actually pulling towards or you're heading, how much of that circle are you completing per second. Now right here, we're actually in more of a horizontal aspect, so we're not pulling a very high turn rate at all, whilst the F-100 is over here getting 19 degrees per second. But as you are very quickly going to see, the MiG-19 is a deadly rate fighter, over 24 degrees per second just there. And that, right about there, 24.2, and the F-100's over here getting just under 19 degrees per second, so very much a higher turn rate, but not quite the same angle of attack. So you can see we're actually pulling a higher G-loading here, much higher, mainly because we're angled downwards here, and the F-100 is going to very quickly lose this fight. So we're actually going to end up having to drop some speed and drop some turn rate, kind of lag behind the F-100 in order to prevent shooting out in front, and we can go over that in just a second. You can see it's a little bit more difficult to draw the two circle at any point. Realistically, those terms, one circle, two circle, they only really refer to how you come out of the merge. So as we merge both aircraft coming in like this, I can, in fact, go back and show something like here. And this is where we start talking about one circle, two circle. It's how you leave the merge. If you go for a head-on merge, you either pull one circle where you both pull in towards each other, a nose position fight, or two circle where it's a nose to tail fight. If we come back around here where we were before, you can see it's a lot more difficult to actually draw that in, because if we look here, we are still forming two circles. In fact, it's a little bit easier here if we draw a circle there and draw a circle here from where we're heading. You can see we're both on separate kind of planes here. You can see that here as we very quickly catch the F-100. It actually does not matter, I should point this out here, it does not matter in a rate fight. Yeah, we're very much catching the the F-100 here. 16 degrees a second of turn rate to over 20, and if we go back here, it's actually just getting higher and higher. What was that? 25.2 degrees per second, which is huge. To the F-100 only getting 16. So what that means is it does not matter, realistically, directly, it does not matter in the slightest how wide this turn is. The F-100 could be pulling in a nice tight turn here, and I could be pulling a turn way out here, but if I'm completing more of this circle per second than the F-100 is, I will catch the F-100 in that turn. Now obviously, that only works as a theoretical. If we're pulling a turn that wide, we're never going to catch the F-100, but realistically, directly at least, it doesn't actually matter how wide your turn is. It just matters how much of the turn you can complete per second. And if you have a higher degrees per second, or a higher turn rate than the opponent does, even if they're pulling a tighter circle, you will win that fight. So stepping back just a second, we've actually had to lag behind the F-100 a little bit just because we were catching him at a little bit too high an aspect. And of course, with the MiG-19, we very much have an advantage here. We have no need to catch him too quickly and make the shot too difficult. So if I tried to turn in as tight as I possibly could here, and if I pulled that turn in nice and tight here and went for this shot, what would happen is I may have been able to do it, but if I'd have missed that shot, I would have been going out here, and the F-100 would have simply been able to come around and reverse that turn. So if I pull around here and I pull this turn right in nice and tight, if I can avoid blacking out as well and take this shot and I miss it, the F-100 is going to have the ability to just reverse that turn into me, and I'll be way out here, or way out there, and he'll have the ability to just shoot me as I cross in front of him. That's how you screw up a situation where you had the advantage. Obviously not going to happen in this fight because we were intentionally fighting in just a one circle or just a two circle aspect in order to demonstrate this here for you guys. But if this were a more realistic competing matchup, we would want to be using this tactic of lagging behind him slightly, flying his flight path rather than just trying to immediately pull him in front of us and gun him down. Because should he pull a slight dodge and manage to jink our shots and we squat out in front of him, we very much sacrificed a winning position. As it happens, we continue here. We're very, very quickly able to catch the F-100 down, and you can see they're over 22 degrees a second of turn rate to now below 16, and it's all over for the F-100 right here. So we've seen the one circle, this is the two circle, and what happens with the two circle is you end up in what's called a rate fight. With the one circle, you'll end up in a scissors like we had in that first game, where each aircraft keeps reversing the turn into each other. Rate fight, very much more predictable in what's going to happen as you both end up in a turn, but a little bit more difficult to draw. As you can see here, it looks like we're both in one circle. We're pretty much both flying that same circle, and the more we... Let me draw a slightly better curve there. If I go around like this, the more we try and lag behind him to actually fly his flight path, we end up creating what looks to be one circle, but it's actually still a two-circle style fight, and it's what we call a rate fight. So one circle will end up in a scissors, a two-circle will end up in a rate fight, and very different which aircraft will come out on top of those two scenarios. So very, very easy win to the MiG-19 in a rate fight. Still not an easy win to the F-100, but a possible win if you can force the one circle. Alright, so we've seen the 1 circle, we've seen the 2 circle. Now let's, just because you lads are going to want to see me suffer, let's do a proper fight with the MiG-19 here. Going for a lead turn there. Taking it 1 circle to begin with. And it looks like we have beaten him in that marge, just slightly. There he goes again, reversing the 1 circle, and he should be wanting to force us into a right fight pretty soon. Now we do want to keep this fight, and there he goes, trying to force that 2 circle. We do want to keep this fight up at altitude though, because as soon as we drop our altitude, we just have no options against a MiG-19. So very much an advantage to the MiG-19 in this fight. A slight out of play maneuver there to jink his shots. Use the vertical here. Just climb above his nose. Use a bit of the rudder there, that was a bit cheeky. Where'd he go? There he is. And just not having it, going straight back into the 2 circle. I'm going to want to put the flaps up there. Now a lot of people would suggest using flaps in a right fight, just to turn a little bit tighter. But obviously it's not about how tightly you turn, it's about how fast you can complete that circle, and the MiG-19 has a huge advantage in that. We have a little bit of advantage in AOA, I don't think it's going to matter here. Oh, very lucky there. Just managed to climb above those shots. I think this is only a matter of time now, though. We're gonna dive down. Not really what I'd like to do. And he's pulled off. We've got a little bit of a chance here. We can take this shot. Beautiful. Whew, I was sweating there. I can't believe I won that. Okay guys, so one last time we're here in Tacview. Just after talking about how Tacview's still an alpha software and it doesn't always work correctly, that was a really good match, but unfortunately Prade's Tacview didn't work, it didn't actually record anything, so unfortunately we can't actually see Prade's aircraft. I'm just going to have to do my best to kind of demonstrate where he is at each point, what's going on. But there's just a few quick things I want to look at from this last engagement. The first was our pre-turn, or our lead turn. So we're actually not waiting until the merge to turn. Usually if we were, let's see, Prade's aircraft's about here, and as we start turning, he's able to start turning, but that's not what's happened here. So we've actually started turning when Prade's still probably about here. So by the time he gets level with us, he's still traveling in a straight line. We've already begun this turn and we're almost kind of side onto him, and that's going to make sure that we actually get a little bit of an advantage. Usually you wouldn't do this in aircraft like this. It's generally in kind of the really super maneuverable jets like F-18s, MiG-29s, where you actually perform a lead turn like that, and it really helps kind of tighten down the room, especially if both aircraft are doing it. But in this particular engagement, we kind of had to use every trick in the book to help us get the advantage over the MiG-19, which should very much be a superior dogfighter. And I do want to have a little talk. We ended up winning this match very much by Prade making a mistake rather than by us actually kind of outplaying him or doing everything right. Prade would still have won that fight, but he ended up making a really significant error, and that's how we won. But that's all part of dogfighting. You know, hindsight is 20/20, but yeah, making mistakes is all kind of part of the process, and capitalizing on those mistakes, that's part of how these aircraft engage. So that's what ended up happening for us in this engagement. The next thing I want to talk about is our out of plane maneuver, as I said. So as I pull up here, if you imagine, unfortunately we can't see where Preed was, but this turn here, he was about to come around and shoot me. So he's gone for the 2-circle before this, he's kind of come around here, and he's about to pull up. Now if we'd have continued this turn around, he would have just come around and shoot me there. But if he's organized, or if he's planned this turn in advance so that he perfectly coincides his aircraft with mine, and he's only got a snapshot to actually make the shot, if we start pulling up like we have here, so instead of continuing on the same trajectory, we've actually pulled about up like that. If Preed tries to correct his turn to all of a sudden put his aircraft on this new course, he won't be turning so tightly to the left here, and he will actually miss that and kind of come out in front. And exactly what we were saying before, if he squirts out in front, he sacrifices the advantage. So instead he had to just kind of go around and try again. The last thing is I want to talk about, I believe this is it here, if you see, yeah, if I come back here, when we dive down like this, and I will actually show what happened in the video. A little bit of an issue with Tacview there, it looks like. But as we dive down there, but as we do this, Preed comes in. He's not going to try and dive down. I think he was going a wee bit too fast, so if he'd have dived down at us, he would have actually struggled to pull out of that. And instead, he's pulled off. He would have seen me kind of angled off this way slightly, and he would have thought that he could pull around like that. I would pull around this way, and he's forced us into a rate fight again, which he's obviously going to win. But instead, he's pulled out a little bit too early on that turn, so he's pulled off about here, and he's already turning out this way. So I'm able to, and we're going to see this in a second, very quickly reverse this turn back in this way, and put the shot in there. As he comes around, he puts himself right in front of our guns, and we are just able to get that snapshot off. So a bit of a risky maneuver, but like I said, in the F-100, we are basically stalling for time, and there we go, there's the turn reversal. And that's what ended up putting us right behind him, able to put that beautiful snapshot in. But in the F-100, very much waiting for the MiG-19 to make a mistake and stalling for time as much as possible, just so that we can get these opportunities. And like I said, that is all part of these engagements. You know, a lot of people say it's invalid if we won not by our skill over Preed, but by his mistake. That's still part of it. You know, that's part of these matches. This is not at all meant to be a case of which aircraft is better or which pilot is better. That's completely irrelevant. That's not what we're looking at here. Neither of us are the best pilots in the game, far from it. And this is just meant to be an example of a fight between these two aircraft. In this video, we've more been looking to demonstrate the 1-circle from the 2-circle, but we've gone ahead and taken a very heavily requested and kind of historically significant matchup of two aircraft in order to facilitate demonstrating the 1-circle from the 2-circle. So once again, as we dive down here, he's seeing me angle off to the left just there, and he's thinking if he comes out this way and I go in that way, he's going to force us into a rate fight. We continue this around like that. He comes around like this. He has a higher turn rate. He catches me right about here. But instead, that's not what happened. I see him pulling out this way way too early, and I'm able to just reverse that turn back around and catch him like that. And it was a beautiful shot. I'm very, very happy with it. Unfortunate that we can't see Preed's perspective in Tacview here, but that's just how it works. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. We will be using Tacview for all of our dogfights from now on, and in the future I do want to do a couple in sim as well. So other than that, thank you very much to Preed for coming out and kind of being our guinea pig and kind of being our target practice today, as we kind of forced him to lose every fight. Very, very happy that we were able to beat him here, and definitely a matchup I enjoyed. I hope you guys did as well. If you do go and download Tacview, make sure you check out, we've got a couple of instructions in the Discord, and I would definitely not advise using it in NRB because the system may pick it up as hacking. It certainly shouldn't. We've tested it to make sure it's safe, but there's always the chance, and I would hate for someone to end up losing their account because of this. But it can't actually be used to cheat because it only creates the file after the match is over. But yeah, try telling that to Gaijin, I suppose. Hopefully in the future we can actually work with Gaijin to get this working properly. Either way, thank you very much, hope you've enjoyed, and I'll catch you lads on the battlefield. Maybe abusing flaps better than I am as well. It takes me a while to actually fucking delayed turning was a great move. Yeah, flying the actual flight path for a second instead of just trying to pull him into the HUD immediately. Oh, that's sexy. That was a good shot. That was a good shot.